Okay guys, that's pretty cool actually. The little flick thingy when it works. Whatever, the number 600 is meant to come up here, but the instrument cluster is a bit shit. I don't know if it's been damaged in the recent rain or something. First of all, I don't know how well you can see this, but I installed a manual kind of hand-operated fan, so you can turn the fan on and off when needed. And that is because this is the 2012 model, and this thing really, really overheats. So yeah, it's the BJ600GS. It's not a bad bike once you get up to speed and there's enough airflow coming through. Just until that point, like if you're stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, it's a bit annoying. Sounds pretty good, to be honest. Not when you don't get the right gear. This instrument cluster just kept messing up. Like I've got a video of it just going like woo, like this, even as we're just sitting at traffic lights where nothing's happening. And then the speed would be going like, you'd be going probably about 50 and it'd go like 61, 43, 33, and not right at all. It was working 2 weeks ago when I went up to Huayro, which is like a mountainous area with my housemate, but just stopped. This bike is the 2012 model, so, and that part has been there since then. Then again, that kind of thing shouldn't break. So what I want to say about this bike is that it definitely has an overheating problem. I bought that kind of knowing that Benelli's do, thinking, hey, I can fix it, which I have done a little bit. As in, you know, there's that switch to make the heater better. You travel on the roads, you know, you take it out for the weekends where you're going pretty fast and it's cooling down the engine a lot. But at one point it got to like 109, which I don't think it should be at that. I've been asking him on the Chinese foreign communities about like, how do I fix this and who's had this bike before and whatnot. And there's a guy up north, they say you put a bit bigger intercooler in because basically the intercooler pipes are only like so wide and they should be like that. So it's obviously not getting enough like liquid to cool it down. So yeah, I've had one particular overheating problem with it, and that was drove it up to Huayro, again the mountain area with some friends, and a friend's bike had problems, and so in the end this bike is not loving me at the moment. So yeah, a friend's bike had problems, so we basically had to stop, start. We ended up coming back a road that's not on the expressway. And this bike was just not loving it at all. The brakes on this bike are adequate. I wouldn't say they're good though. The 2012 model is exactly when Shenzhong, the Chinese company, purchases it from Benelli, and then it's like Benelli design, and there's Benelli engineers that come over to do like all the sound engineering. So it does sound amazing, but the quality control is like a standard Chinese company. It's like they do a bit of testing here, 10 minutes of testing here in a perfect environment, and therefore that equals to perfect in the real world. Where you're like, no, if you've got massive airflow in your testing environment, and in the real world you're in stop-start traffic, that doesn't translate properly. And so there's a lot of kind of, there's a Chinese phrase of chabodo. It's like, pretty much. It's exactly that. They kind of like push it out and like, we want to showcase to the world that we made an amazing bike, and it looks amazing, I can assure you on that. And it does sound amazing, and it goes very fast. The acceleration just keeps going, but it's got a whole bunch of problems, and the quality control is just not there. And so a bunch of these bikes were sold in Indonesia, and this is, you know, a hot country with stop-start traffic all the time. They had many problems. So you get a lot of forums of like of people in Indonesia trying to fix their bikes and getting Chinese engineers over and whatnot. Yeah, so there's a bunch of things, and it's kind of the same with all Chinese bikes. It's like the instrument cluster. If you put a really good one in, then let's say it's 400 kwai when you're buying en masse, and they're like, well, we can get this one for 250 kwai, and therefore we save 150 kwai per bike. We're going to be making many of these, so that translates into profit. However, what they don't seem to understand, no indicating, awesome. What they never seem to understand is that if people buy this bike and then they just write it off as such a shit bike because that instrument cluster fails, the brakes aren't very good, the mirrors, I mean, that's not standard mirrors, but it is pretty shit. Then they're not going to buy the bike again. They're probably not even going to try and fix it. They're just going to be like, oh, sorry, Benelli, Chinese-made Benellis are a shithouse. And you're never going to have any like repeat customers. And what's more is that those people that bought it initially aren't going to recommend to their friends of, hey, I just bought this great bike, how about you buy it also? They're like, no, stay the fuck away from it. So by your like cheapening out for parts for what's meant to be a nice bike, you've lost so many customers. I don't quite understand that. Well, sorry, let me rephrase that. I do understand it because it's the Chinese kind of management mentality, but that doesn't make it right, and it's still stupid. Look how fast we're going. 0 and 0. And there's no engine light on because there's no problems anymore. So I think I was saying before, but basically the intercooler, the pipes leading off from the intercooler aren't wide enough, aren't big enough in diameter, so there's not enough liquid going around. And then the fan that they put on it is just too shitty. And then the ECU mapping was wrong, so like people saying, how about you change the ECU mapping? And then the controller units that they put on for the engine management system, like the ECU, it was kind of budget. It's kind of like basic in its thinking, and so they're working enough, but they're not working as a high performance bike should work. Although maybe we shouldn't be calling this thing a high performance bike. And there's all these like little things that kind of come together that altogether you're like, the bike's not great quality. However, that being said, I think it's the 2013, 2014, the 2014 model is improved a lot, like a lot. it doesn't seem to have the overheating problem. There's many changes that happened. So luckily the Chinese engineers listened to the customers, which is rare. Okay, and the other thing is, when I picked this bike up, it was second hand, and the battery had been sitting there for a little while. 30. Yeah, I'm going 0. That's pretty good. But the owner before it obviously wanted this bike to look more racy, I guess. I don't know. And so he put on these levers. I don't think they're standard, or at least I hope they're not standard. And they look a bit tacky, like, you know, with this bronzy copper color. And then these mirrors. These mirrors you can't see shit out of. Like, I have to bring my shoulder in and then look to see what's behind me. And they're like tainted a light blue. And I don't know if it's just this particular bike. It seems like the cooling, the messages that goes to the fan, kind of says like it gets to 94 and they'll turn on and you're like, oh great, it's going to cool the engine down. It doesn't, because the fan's not powerful enough and the intercooler doesn't have enough diameter, so you're not getting enough flow around, so that doesn't work. And then you think, oh well, it will keep going until it's cool. No, after a while it just turns off. It goes like, I've had enough of this shit, and just stops. So you're like, you're still heating up, but you're not cooling down, and you're not even attempting to cool it down. It does lean fairly well. Like it's a naked bike, yeah. Normally it leans quite well, but yeah, it generally just leans and drops straight into a corner, which is what you want. Wow, what a showcase. Fast, slips out of gear, awesome. Fucking awesome. These mirrors are so shit, I don't know why. If I had the bike for any longer, there's a guy online that's like, you can get a bigger diameter fan from the UK. I'd put that on. Probably see if I can get a second hand, like intercooler, like large diameter intercooler from somewhere. Cooler, cooling liquid. I bought it for 20,000 second hand, which is way below the general asking price. But I kind of want to put it in the nicest condition I can before. So obviously, like oil change, grease the chain, maybe might put in a new instrument cluster, although that seems pretty fucking expensive. Oh, I don't know, I didn't say before, but like, so you can see, obviously these are so that you don't grind as you're going around corners and whatnot. But actually when you're changing gears, they're pretty good, because you're like, your foot like comes up a bit and then in. And it's actually very convenient to change gears. I thought I might just take a walk around the bike. It's pretty nice. These kind of things. Bit shitty quality control. That's a bit disgusting, that's a bit disgusting. All this paint's been fading. Awesome, that doesn't work at all. That's, I don't know, to me that looks slightly dodgy. Either way, it's a nice looking bike. Why did I buy the bike? Well, it was cheap. I wanted something to, I don't know how much you can actually see for the view, but it was cheap for, you know, a second-hand Benelli for 20,000. There's a bigger capacity engine. What I wanted it for was to like go to the mountains and do the twisty roads, which is nice to do in, just to get outside of Beijing. As soon as you get to Huairou, these kind of places, it's like greenery, and suddenly you realize like, yeah, living in Beijing is bearable because I can go out and I can do these twisty roads. It's a naked bike, I like that a lot. So you get this feeling that you kind of get this wind resistance against you, so you feel maybe like you're going faster than you are. It's quite powerful what it is, for what it is. I mean, it is a heavy bike for sure, but it's still quite powerful. So you can be on the Jingshan Expressway, and I mean, I got it up to 160 with my housemate on the back, and I got it up to 170 when we were just seeing how fast we could kind of go, and very stable. And this is the kind of thing China just, they're not really enforcing the laws, so nobody really cares about that. But I mean, if you try to do that in Europe, either you got to be in like Germany or something like this for you to get away with it. Otherwise, you've got huge fines. You're probably going to jail or something like that. Here, it's just, yeah, as long as you're not dangerous. I wanted to talk about a little bit as well. The history of this. This is when Zhejiang just bought over Benelli, as I think I was describing before. And so normally Benelli's history they're all 3-cylinder bikes, but this is the first 4-cylinder one. Anyway,